I was reading a little bit and thinking to myself, maybe one day I will understand everything that's being written here. I could grasp like 5%, but maybe one day I'll understand a little bit more. This requires patience, education, and reading a lot. Also listening, because there's people on YouTube that have gone through the same situation and made audios about it to, like a professor or a guiding light. You can, you know, accept these shortcuts, of course. Stuff, that was sacredly kept, even, uh, kept like a military secret, stuff that they just didn't let out into the public once upon a time, I suspect. It was only the elites, of back in those days that had access to this, because information is uh, knowledge, and wisdom was the most priceless thing. Anyway, nowadays the information is out there and people just don't care. You know, people are like, oh, I'm too busy, you know, grinding, because the modern day that we have is a grinding. It grinds you. It chews like a chewing gum. It chews you and throws you away. Doesn't make any sense. People think actually technology is, you know, evolution or something like that. That it's progress. That it's not. Technology is not. Technology that's been used nowadays, it's not progress. Every time they come up or they promote, it's just to replace people, and that doesn't make any sense. It just replaces people. So it just breeds misery, in my opinion. I'm sorry, it just breeds more misery. Anyway, there's a rise in anxiety and stress, record levels, as technology moves forward. Anyway, the other day I had to block multiple channels. I just unsubbed, and when I come across these channels, I just say I'm not interested. I'm trying to get them out of the algorithm, because channels that I actually cherished in past years now have become toxic, completely mental. Everybody's panicking, because of what's going on in the world. They are panicking because they don't have a plan B for these situations. They are too into the system, and they never thought, the system could collapse. With this fear, you know, of it collapsing, people are going mental. Yeah. So there's lots of contradictory in these channels, lots of contradictory ideas, and people spreading chaos and fear and opinions, 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 opinions. You know, and I'm like, I've had enough of this. I'm not gonna listen, and I don't want them in my algorithm. So fear, 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 opinions, 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 panic, panic, panic. I was listening. Nobody offered any solution. They just panic, panic, panic. I just hate those. Sometimes mainstream channels, from, you know, people that was being interviewed, they are the elites in the mainstream, ambassadors, economists, professors, and they panicking, panicking like little children. I'm like, this is not okay. So this world that we have, this modern world, we should take it as a blessing, but not be part of it. You know, for instance, you have a job, but it's only a means to make money. It is not your life. The same thing, you go shopping to you go shopping for food, but that's not your main source of food. It's just something plus. People always have to have a plan A, which is the essential plan, and then a plan B, a plan C. You know, that's how you should do the same thing. Following the analogy, for instance, you create content for platforms, but don't make it your mainstream job. No, it's just something you do on the side. Yeah, you have a real occupation to make income, to make ends meet. And this platform thing is just optional, secondary, It isn't because a lot of the panic is people losing monetization, you know. Oh man. And of course, what's going on with oil and, you know, the traditional geopolitics. A reason why the elites hated the farmers in the past because they didn't give a damn about geopolitics. You know, they didn't give a damn. They weren't, affected by pressure because they had the means of production in their hands. They were the ones who produce food and stored food, and the elites just hated that. Whenever they wanted to, cause some pressure, the farmers was like, yeah, yeah, go ahead and do your thing. We just have no problem. Nowadays, everybody is 100%, since agriculture is all privatized and agriculture is all by companies. It's not the individual that is responsible for their food. They got you by the balls. The main objective of the industrial age was to replace humans by machines. you know that was the purpose, because they wanted what? To control everything. To control everything. Now they have almost absolute control over everything. And so when things go bad in geopolitics, everybody panics because they are 100% dependent on the psychopathic control grid. So preppers are actually right to prep food for the next 30 years, to non-perishable food. Yeah, it's not healthy, but it may help you survive and learn how to farm and get a place away from cities where you can farm and have some animals. You know, the parallel. Those are the future of humanity, because once you get into the city system, it just dilutes and dies off. Like any other empire, it just becomes diluted and it dies off. People lose the will to live, and then it's the ones who live in the woods. They call them the barbarians. The ones who live in the woods. They open the doors. Hey, come in, come in. We need fresh blood to keep this thing moving, basically. Some of them come in, but I'm telling you, if they had the wisdom of not coming to the rescue, this city system, this empire system would collapse. People get seduced by this idea of a city, of an empire. It's going to be sex, drugs, and rock and roll. While you are in the woods, you have to do everything by yourself. You know, another analogy, I was thinking, for instance, you have a child that is born in the countryside, and playing, playing is going to be running through the fields, climbing trees, doing that sort of thing. Be surrounded by animals and be surrounded by parasites and bugs and other stuff like that, and it kind of leaves a print on you, right? So one day when you see a cat in the top of a tree, you will have no problems in climbing the tree. You are capable of doing it. But if you were raised in a city, you wouldn't climb the tree. You would call, I don't know, the firemen, the police, or whatever, because you just don't have it in you, you see. Now, people panicking online is because they were raised in a special way. Now they are 100% dependent on these politicians and whatever, and banksters. And this anomaly that we call civilization or society, it's a side effect, and it should be taken, as something complementary. What it's important is your self-sufficient. That's the basis of everything. But of course, it doesn't serve, I'm sorry, it doesn't serve empires or megalomaniacs, or to be independent. So servant megalomaniacs, and they will try to unify everybody, you know instead of having small villages, independent from each other. No, they want to create a big empire. It dilutes the diversity, it dilutes everything. And anyway, I see it as a coming and a going. It kind of comes apart and falls apart, comes apart, falls apart. Sometimes it changes area, but I wouldn't put all my eggs in one basket. Spread your eggs in multiple baskets, to have more than one option. So when the world trembles, you don't fall into panic and despair.